The topic I will explore in this presentation is how we can do spatial planning to address public health in space. There are many health aspects that are explored when it's about space, but very often those are for short missions, and very often those are for highly specialized people. Behavior is very often determined by the environments. It's not only about the internal aspects, but also by the environment around us. And as environments are determining behavior, behavior is determining health as well. And we're talking about long-term missions, such as missions on the moon, even missions on Mars, or maybe someday in the upper atmosphere of Venus. We need to be aware of three key emotions that we need to nurture to have resilient missions, especially long-term missions where we'll have tens, hundreds, or even more participants in the crew. So those are about trust, nurturing trust, motivation, and readiness. They have medical terms as well, but I'll refer to them in very simple terms and show practical ways to nurture those emotions. So how do you nurture trust? When we're working on the moon or we're collaborating on a major infrastructure project, we need to trust the instruments we use, the methodologies we apply, but also we need to trust each other, people in the team. And it's extremely important for that trust to be established in person, part of common training as well as common missions. And that's something that, digitally speaking, is very hard to replicate, but things in person are much more effective. And when it's about trust, you need to create the right environment. You need to create this kind of what's so-called the third space. So if you're thinking about a mission that is very complex, such as in upper atmosphere of Venus or on Mars, you need to also create those spaces where they're not working, they're not in their free time, but they're in a context that allows them to communicate, to link friendships and exchange ideas and knowledge. And more than that, trust for long-term is established by culture. And culture can mean many things. It will be a choice at some point that a new culture is created, a space culture, or a lunar culture, or a Martian culture, or people will bring their cultures and they will try to integrate them in those missions. And this is important because by integrating culture, by integrating trust, by integrating nature, and even maybe some point having pets, you can have a more oxytocin release and things that are usually impossible to do digitally. You need to do them in person. So those elements, collaboration, human touch, culture, and maybe at some point nature and pets, will be very important to nurture trust. How do you nurture motivation? Very often people are waiting for motivation to come before doing something extremely challenging, for instance. But the case is the human body doesn't work that way. You need to act first, and then the motivation will come. So for dopamine, you need to create in the right environment where that motivation is nurtured. And very often this image I tested with many people showing where they would rather live on the moon, and very often B and D were the preferred options. And the reason for that is people, even from a very young age, prefer fractal patterns, prefer patterns that are inspiring and they are reflecting natural textures. More important than that, it's important to create environments that are nurturing exploration, that are nurturing awe. And this is a major challenge on the moon, especially as both on Moon and Mars, there's idea to have people in lava tubes or underground to be protected by radiation. But in the same time, we need to find ways to bring natural light, bring the sun, to bring the stars. So we're not cave people, but in space, we're actually people still connected to the view of Earth or the view of the sun. And this will be very important on long term. And this exploration needs to be something that, besides the excitement that initially you have when you go to the moon, on long term, after months or even years, it can still motivate you to do work there and to collaborate with other people. So exploration, curiosity, and awe are extremely important for the dopamine release and motivation. For the readiness, things are a little bit more complicated because we need hard infrastructure that allow security of food, of water, of resources, even infrastructure pieces such as space hospitals that can be remotely controlled. And by creating those spaces, we need to ensure that we have good sleep, we have spaces for exercise, clean air, food and water, and also connectivity. And at Optimus is what we've done together with experts such as Dr. Russomano, Dr. Stephen Law, Cesar Rujan. We looked at multiple factors influencing health at scale. And we applied that on Earth using a combination of satellites, using a combination of AI and sensors to first sense where are those potential risk factors influencing different parts of our body, circulatory system, respiratory system, and neuropsychiatric system. And by sensing those issues, we're able to decide what to do next and then act upon that decision. And extremely important to prioritize that, especially in space where you have many unknowns that can emerge. So on Mars, for instance, you can apply the same principle that you need to find the right location, habitats that you need to ensure they're protected from radiation or for other pathogens that can develop there. But you also need to allow sunlight and some nature to be integrated in that. Because if you are bringing nature inside, you are bringing this right environment for people to focus, work, and also to grow foods and also to collaborate and at the same time do that in a safe way. So our idea here in the Endeavor project was including those modules in craters and then sealing the crater gradually, so there is always a buffer between the external and the internal environment. And when it's about collaborating externally, we need good connectivity. In order to make sure that you have public health safety, you'll need a good communication between people and machines and robots and rovers, as well as between the machines as well, especially when it's about the space hospital, for instance, where you will need some robotics integrated for remote surgery or analysis. There are also technologies that can address things such as pathogens, and Spectrum Blue with the Q field can act as a shield, an active shield that once applied on surfaces, it removes bacteria, fungi, and also NOx. And those kind of technologies are very useful because you don't need to plug them in, you just apply them on the surface and it destroys those pathogens. And those key emotions will be extremely important in the future, especially as we're moving towards long-term missions. And we had long-term missions on the ISS, we had very short-term missions on the moon. But when it's about Mars or even upper atmosphere of Venus, we need to consider those conditions. Thank you very much.